Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you're watching from. Welcome to Art School Live. I'm your host for today, 𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗍𝗏. I've been with Streamline 13 years, and Eric is prepping for his Paint Adirondacks event this weekend, so I get to fill in for him. And I'm super excited because I love getting to do this, love getting to know artists, getting to watch artists paint, and chatting with all of you. So I'm excited that you're here with us today. We have got Leslie Hamilton joining us today, and she is a legend here at Streamline. She's been around forever and ever and ever, and you can always tell where she's at by her red hat. So let's talk with Leslie.
Hi there. Good to see you.
Hi, Leslie. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thanks. And you?
I'm doing great. Where are you calling from?
I'm in my studio, which is in Woodland Hills. We're just on the what would it be? The northeast side of the Santa Monica Mountains. So,
oh, okay, very cool.
A coyote trotted across my front lawn this morning about 7:30.
Oh, that's nice. That's always kind of fun to get to see that wildlife.
It's actually an amazing place. It really is.
Most excited I've gotten about wildlife is when I saw squirrel ones, because we have a new development. So all of our trees are little itty bitty baby trees.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We'd lived here almost 8 years before I even saw a squirrel. So I got excited. Feel like we're moving up in the neighborhood.
Yeah, good. At least they moved in. That's good.
Yes. What are you going to share with us today, Leslie?
Well, we've been working on gouache the last couple of sessions that we've done. So I thought it would be fun to utilize the acrylic gouache. And we have a bit of a twist at the end that I think you'll enjoy, that I learned when I was doing decorative painting a zillion years ago. But what I have is my palette looks like a mess because I've been working on this for a couple of days. And I will be continuing with the details and then showing you the twist at the very end. But it is a lighthouse on cliffs with a foggy background.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see what this new twist is. So let's go ahead and roll that video.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhodes. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhodes.
𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗍𝗏. Sorry, that might be getting old, but it makes Amandine smile, and that's what I live for. So welcome to Live. 𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗍𝗏 here. We're going to get started in just a second with our guest, Leslie Hamilton. She is going to be showing us how she uses acrylic gouache, and she's painting a kind of a seascape scene with a lighthouse and some fog in the background. And she says she has this this little trick that she uses at the end. So I'm quite excited to see how this goes. So Leslie, take it away.
Thank you very much. Well, what we're going to be doing is reviewing some still shots, and I'm going to take my hat off because it's getting in the way. The still shots show you the progress of this. The first was a sketch. I like to use a sketch that's comparable to the actual finished art. So what I did was I did a line art with a marker, and then I put graphite paper under it, and I traced the image onto the board, which will be the next shot. Right there. And you can barely see, but I've got the pencil lines in place. And
I can see it.
My palette ready to go right there. So that's what we started with. And what I'm continuing to do is paint in. So I started with the big chunks, like the experts say. You start with the large areas, large shapes, and there's going to be, you can continue. There's going to be a series of these shots as I went along. And as you see above the painting, you can see the original photograph that I was working. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I established my my palette, and you will see that I have a card that's about the size of, a 5x7 card, and I test my colors on it. So what I chose to do was put in a fairly dark background in multiple colors. What I was seeing in the photograph was everything from a maroon to a forest green to gray and even some gold. And so I tried to loosely apply that. And then I went over it with a lavender that is a common color throughout this whole painting.
I like the lavender.
Well, I'd love to take credit for it, but that's Mother Nature. So that's where we are at. I then, since this last photograph, I put down a mask of the light tack purple masking tape, and I've gone in and I've done some more detail. So that's what we're going to continue with, is the detail.
So for those that don't know, because I don't know, what is the masking? What does that do?
The masking is going to make it easier for me to do that surprise twist at the end.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't want it to get on top of my lighthouse. The lighthouse has a very specific color. It's kind of a pale turquoise, and it's unique in the photograph. So I've tried to use the turquoise and repeat it in the water so that we have a balance of color there. And then I'm going to go in right now, and I'm just going to do a little detail with a very small brush that hopefully establishes the planes of these wonderful rocks. This photograph looks as though it is probably some kind of lava flow, which is fantastic for different colors and also textures. So I'm going back in with my little flat brush.
And you said you're using board. Is that illustration board?
I refer to it as my board, but it is actually a linen mounted board.
Okay. Or
mounted linen board. So I'm going to try to do some detail with this. I'm using a number 2 flat because I want the sharp edge, but I also want to be able to maneuver a little bit. I also have a second brush handy, and I will manipulate if I think my colors aren't right, the texture's a little too flat. I'll go back in and kind of lift a little bit. Good thing about gouache, in either its regular form or the acrylic, is it's malleable. So you can go back in and move it around. Now, the acrylic's going to dry more quickly, which is an advantage to using it. It's also a disadvantage sometimes, because if you're in an arid climate, for example, I tried to use it when we were out at Pace. We were all up in Virginia City, and I was to work with it. And it was like trying to paint with will-hold glue. So
yeah, see, I've used it as a background on some portraits I did so that I wouldn't mess it up. So it was permanent there, but I've not tried it in that kind of a setting because it does dry fast and then you can't do anything with it. Do you, at that point, do you try to use any sort of a blending medium to extend the life of it?
No, I try to use things in pure pigment, whether it's oil with just a little bit of solvent or it's watercolor. I really try to keep to it. Now, with watercolor, I'll frequently use gouache for particular sections of it. For example, if there is a lot of spray and I'm doing a water scene and there's a lot of sort of spray and splatter, sometimes I will go in and put that in before I even start painting in a liquid mask. And then when I get far enough, I'll lift that mask. And the interesting thing a lot of people don't know is you can use mask once you've painted something, and it gives you, it will lighten the color underneath, which is sometimes a really good vehicle if you feel like you've overdone a particular area.
That's interesting. That's good to know. I didn't know that.
Okay, so I'm moving back and forth as quickly as I can on the front edge of my bright or my flat, whatever you want to call it. There's bunches of different names for these. And keeping in my other hand, the other brush, for quick fixes. What I'm trying to do right now is imply as simply as possible the nooks and crannies that you get with lava flow rocks that have settled in on the shoreline. There are so many colors. It's so fun. My palette, as you can see on camera, is made up of, I've got a magenta, cadmium red light, I've got burnt sienna, I've got ochre, I've got Van Dyke brown, I've got cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, my lavender, the turquoise, which I use too much of on the palette, but no harm, no foul. And then I have a viridian green, and I have a sap green, and a cadmium yellow light. And I don't use black. I make black with Payne's gray and Van Dyke brown. And the reason is it's just richer. So I'm going to go back into my Payne's gray right now and try to darken some of these areas, because they really, within this fog, they would really be bright colors, but dark darks. So we're going to go over here, and I'm going to get this carved out. And I want to differentiate it. It's far darker than that beach sitting behind it. So I do want to get that. And the thing is not to fuss, but just throw it in there. Let it happen. Nobody's going to die. One of my favorite things I say to myself, if you're ever around me when I'm out doing landscapes, plein air, you'll hear me muttering to myself. And it's usually phrases like that.
I like saying that to my kids, but did you die? So move on.
Poor kids. So here's my black, my fake black with my two colors. If I want it bluer, I go back in there, and I can even hit it with a little bit of ultramarine blue. I want to talk to you about keeping acrylics, because these are 2 days old and there has been no problem whatsoever with them drying out. When I see them getting a little dull, the lack of shine means that they are drying up a bit, and I take out my handy dandy spritzer, which is actually a makeup spritzer that I fill with water, and I just hit my little guys like this.
And are you using like a stay wet kind of palette too?
It is a stay wet palette. The stay wet thing I haven't even, the sponge part I haven't had to use, because I use glassine paper. I buy it in a roll and I cut it to size, and then I just put the regular lid of this 2-piece tray and palette back on it. And if I'm going to be working pretty quickly, but I want to step away for a few minutes, then what I'll do is I will just put the glassine over it. And then I have these plastic boards. This is one of them that I buy. It's a corrugated plastic, very lightweight, but it's great if you want to slap it down on top of the glassine and kind of keep that safe and moist while you step away. All right, so put that back over there. So these are nice and refreshed, a little more on my ultramarine blue. Then I have, sitting right next to each and every color, is a dollop of white. And it is the mixing white from the set that I won at Pace. Yay!
Oh, there you go.
That was fun. And if anybody missed Pace, I am sorry, because it was a blast.
It was a lot of fun. I think this is the most fun I've had at Pace was this year. It was also the most frustrating for me, but also the most fun.
Well, good that it was fun. You wouldn't have known it was frustrating if you hadn't had fun. Whoops, sorry. Bumped it with my elbow. Try that. Won't do that again. Okay. So if you want to shoot any questions to me, anything, is anybody awake out there?
Yeah, they are. They're watching. I've been answering questions in the chat.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that would be like patting my stomach and rubbing my head to try to do both. You're a god to me. Okay, so in this incredibly cool picture, there are 2 caves. One is over here, and I'm going to put that guy in right now. And one is right here at the water. So we're going to try to get that in. You'll notice I use a sponge, and it sits right next to me while I'm working. And the sponge is what I dab my excess water off on right there. Just a couple of swipes. And I have my little antique brush holder, the old toast holder, with me, per usual. All right, this is a little too light, so I'm going to scumble a bit of this stuff in there. What I'm going to scumble it with is kind of a blend of a warm gray, just to knock it back because it's kind of screaming it. And I'm going to add a little blue into that because it's much more interesting. Okay. I'm squinting now because I want to see what's going on in more objective sense. And we're going to do a little more of this. The cool thing about these small flats is you can get planes. In other words, when you look at a rock, it isn't, we have a joke actually. My buddy's from Dreamliners, and I have a joke about potato rocks. And if you look at something and it looks like a potato and not a rock, you got it wrong.
I definitely paint potatoes.
So a good way to get around that is to paint with flats, because you can do edges and turn it, do it from the other direction, and that's what I really like about them. And it just makes things more interesting. I'm not going to belabor these rocks because I want to get onto our secret, but just barely into this, so I have to hold back. And,
well, we still have 40 minutes, so you got
I know. I'll talk slowly. So I'm going to go in here and do a little bit in our water. It's really quite bubbly and boily. And I did an underpainting of both the turquoise from the guardhouse, the lifeguard house, and I did some a little bit of grayed out Payne's gray because I want to make it give it some depth underneath the water. So what I'm going to do again is take my flat brush, still working with my number 2, and I'm going to dab it, and I'm going to move, and I'm going to be inconsistent. I call it the cha-cha because you don't want to do the same line every time. You want to go 1, 2, cha-cha-cha, 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. So now it looks like the water's moving. There, okay. I'll do a little more later, but I don't want to overwork it. I would like it to set up a little bit so I can layer it. All right. In this photograph, as I was tracing it, I realized there is a lady standing on the edge of this platform that the tower is on, the lifeguard tower. So I'm going to use, and I bumped the camera again, sorry about that. I'm going to use a teeny tiny bit of white. It looks like this person has white slacks on and then a reddish top. So I've been working around this person with all my colors, and I left it just the gesso color coming through. So let's try the burnt umber with some of the red. The thing about red is it just becomes your focus. No matter what other colors are around, it seems like red screams. So I want to put in a little darker version of red for this person and just kind of dab in. Oh, it's a funny thing when you look closely, it almost looks like they've wrapped themselves in a blanket and they're standing up there in a blanket. So we're going to do the same. We're going to pretend it's a blanket. We're going to give that person, looks like they have light colored hair. We'll do that. And I don't want it to look like something that is, oh, sorry, head's in the way. Thank you. My roadie just told me to move my head back. Okay. So we don't want to go in too wet. And my brush is a little wet. So we have too much head. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to do a little bit of shading on those slacks. And I'm going to use blue, my ultramarine blue. Here we go. There. And now if you use your imagination, she's walking. I'm going to go back in here. I love this little sort of, it's what I call a kiss, a teeny tiny dot of color going on right back here. And it's where you can see the ocean behind the guard station a little bit. a little strong. Okay.
So what's your purpose for using the sponge instead of a paper towel?
You can reuse it. You can wash it. They last forever. These are the cellulose sponges, good old-fashioned ones. And I just put it in a dish, and then I squeeze it out, wash it out, re-wet it, put it back in the dish. With paper towels, it's just such a waste.
Yeah.
Now, for paper towels, I will use these. They're the shop towels.
Mm-hmm.
You can wash them.
Oh, can you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I learned that from Thomas Jefferson Kitts, who does oil painting with them and still washes them.
Interesting.
So, true dat.
I hadn't thought about that. There are reusable paper towels now, so you could definitely do that to try to reduce waste. I've been using microfiber cloths.
How do you like them?
They're okay. I mean, they wash up nicely. But I mean, I'm a novice painter when it comes to using gouache, so I'm not as well versed as everyone else.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. What we're going to do, gosh darn it, guys. I'm going too fast. All right. Let's work a little more on our water. It might have set up a bit. What I'm using is almost pure white. I had it mixed with the ochre initially, right at the edges. It's very ochre where it's washing over the sand, even though the sand itself is pretty gray in this nasty weather. Okay.
You call that nasty weather. My husband calls that a beautiful day. Love that kind of weather.
I know. I was thinking I was harsh. It's good. It's good to have the variety. We're heading into the middle of June quickly enough, and in LA 2 days ago we had rain, heavy rain. So that was a welcome gift. Okay. All right. So let's do some more detail out here. We're going to take our Payne's Gray and we're going to mix it with a little bit of that Van Dyke Brown. And I'm going to go in here and do my little touch-ups with 2 brushes and a finger. Always a good tool.
Why do you use the finger?
I think a lot of people, this is funny. I was such a purist, classically trained, and thought, oh, we never use anything but brushes or whatever. Then I started to invent materials and ways of doing stuff, and I still didn't use my finger until I saw Keiko Tanabe do a demonstration, and lo and behold, she used her finger, and I went, oh, magic! So I have ever since. It's good enough for the masters. It's good enough for me. Okay. I'm darkening up the edges where the cliff comes in. It still wasn't enough for me. There's a little bit of spot over here.
I love all the colors you have in the foreground.
Thank you. I love to work with color. My partner in crime, she is an artist who does fabric arts. So she and I have worked together for years, since we were muraling once upon a time together. And she calls me the queen of color. God bless her. Okay. We got a little bit of blandness going on here. So I'm going to add a little more detail in here to our cave. Little dimension. I like to do a painting that makes your eye wander, that has interesting places that you don't expect. And so these little caves are kind of part of that magic where if you're not looking at first, you don't see it. And then if you look again, you go, oh, I love that.
We've got a question for you, one that I can't answer. And it is, have you chosen to crank up the green for the complementary contrast with the reddish earth?
I have not done it yet. I worked on it just before we started, and it was a little wet. So trying to keep the colors a little crisper, I haven't gone back to do that. But yes, it's in the works. I also try to move around to keep it, just keep my eye fresh. So I won't focus on one area for very long. I tend to move around.
Well, I think it helps too, because then it gives it a chance to dry so that you don't just mud with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I love these edges where there's some depth. I'm not going to fuss with that. This is kind of a cool guy over here. And then I'm going to carve into here, give that an overhang, and then go up here and give that some cut in kind of. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go back to my square with a dark green. This thing is so dark. It's crazy. So I'm going to go in here and bring this down and just leave a little bit of highlighter green up there at the top. The reason why this isn't well defined behind there is that it's an area where all I need is a background, because there's this wonderful old fence right there. So that's what I'm going to put in right now. And I want to use my square and also create kind of a tough color to identify. But I want to create, I think it's kind of a brownish, grayish lavender. And I'm a little bit off. Oh, by the way, I have a scratch card. When I'm trying to identify a color, I have a scratch card. And I will do that. And then I will hold it there. It's a little green. So trying to keep the colors consistent, not kind of veer off into some weird direction. It's still green. Okay. Let's get that in there. There we go. All right. So now we're going to put our little fence in right there. And I'm going to do the light, and then I'll do dark later. And it has to be, to move my sponge, has to be dark enough, dense enough to hold its own, because this is an area of not terribly great importance, but I love its kind of rustic quality, and it gives it that rustic look. So I'm going to do this as a base color and then go back in with maybe some brown and maybe a little mauve and a lot of gray. So there we are. And I'll define the shapes in a bit. What I want to do, though, is I want to anchor it. So I'm going to give it very small amount of dark right at the base. Right at the base. And that makes it sit. All right, so I'm going to give it some chance to dry, and then I'm going to go back in and define, as I said. Let's go back and do a little more down here. I love the detail in that lava rock. So pretty. All right, so we're going to go in here. We're going to hop around. You know, your brain fills in a lot. If you've ever taken one of those kind of reading checks, and it'll have some of the letters backwards and some missing, and you can still read the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
That's because the brain fills it in, and I think that's what people forget, including me from time to time, that you don't have to do every single tiny detail.
Right.
Because, your brain fills it in. So what I want to get, though, is some good darks going in here to lead you up. And there's quite a bit of brown down in here, like dark gray brown. The policy usually when we're doing something like this is not to try to finish the piece, but to show technique and give tips and tricks. And that's my best work, is tips and tricks. I'm all about the shortcuts. All right. So I'm going to do some streaking with these rocks. Oh, I like that much better. And then I want to take my teeny tiny number 2 round, and I'm going to go in and do a little bit of detail. And I like to just sort of skip and mold, and then I keep my other brush at hand. It almost is like calligraphy, tiny strokes in different directions so that you can go back in and break it up and get your planes established and the nooks and the crannies without doing too much detail. If you look at the ancient Japanese and Chinese scrolls of mountains, you see more than is actually there, and I think this is part of the trick, is being able to put it in without over rendering. Okay, there's kind of a lift right here, so I'm going to make that happen. Yay, lifts. And then over here, it's much darker along here, so we're going to put that back in with some cobalt, and then we're going to throw in that Payne's gray and the Van Dyke brown. We're going to end up with this wonderful mass right here. Okay, over here, we've got some more right near that other cave. We have stuff happening, so we're going to put that in. Make it look like an overlap, kind of an overhang right there. And then we're going to work our way up, adding more Payne's gray into this darkness up here. There. And I'm going to carve back in with this one to shape it a bit. All right, I'm liking it.
Looks good.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, this is darker up here, so I'm going to take that, knock it back. And then we're a little bit wet still with our fence, but let's try to get some shape in there. Oops, put my hand right into the wet stuff.
We've got about 20 minutes left.
Okay. Let's have some fun because we still have to do the lighthouse. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to move my iPad back because it's going to get messy. And then I'm going to take my sponge out of my dish and I'm going to put into that. And I'm going to knock my brushes on the floor. I'm going to put some oil paint. And I'm going to take a practice sheet that is a tad darker. Let me just move this whole thing rather than try to scoot it. Okay. Can you see that okay? There we are. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is take my Galkid with my oil paint. Maybe not. I neglected to open it first, and it's stuck. So let's see what we can do with that. Okay, there it goes. Man, this stuff is goopy. Give me a minute. I'm going to have to get my other bucket. And there it is. Note to self, practice before you do this. All right. All right, so, whoops, knock the camera again. So here's a new bottle of Calcutta. So I'll tell you what I'm doing. I am making a glaze. And the glaze is oil paint over the acrylic gouache. And the reason is you can water down your acrylic gouache and tamp a thin layer onto your painting. Or what I have found is easier is taking oil paint, making a glaze with it, and then tamping it on. Why, you might ask? One reason is it doesn't dry as quickly, so you have longer to work with it. The second thing is I find that it's a much more lush material for glazing, and I've used this for years. It can seal your work if you do the whole thing with a glaze, which is not what I intend. But I do intend to make a nice thin glaze. Right now, I'm just trying to smooth out all the lumps. And the first thing I'm going to do is practice on this board. I recommend always practicing, testing your colors like on my other little card. And this technique, I'm going to make sure that I can glaze onto it. Now, this wonderful brush, you can find variations of it online. They call it a waxing brush now. When I worked with them, it was a faux painting brush. And the advantage of it is it's so bushy. It's absolutely fabulous for making glazes and things. So I'm going to test it on this. All I do is I tamp it into the color, and then I tamp it on here. Now that's really dense. So we want to spread it. And it makes a beautiful fog. Plus, going over these dark colors, it isn't so bilious a white. It's actually kind of a gray lavender, which is exactly what I want. So that means we got a winner. Back down.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Pardon me?
I said winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Oh, you're so eloquent. Okay, here we go. You want to work quickly because when you initially tamp it, it's going to be dense and uneven parts. But we really want to knock this background back and give it that kind of cool moodiness of the beautiful weather. I'm getting a bit of glare, so I'm switching to my other hand to do this. Okay, now the reason why you can see now, the reason why the guard shack is masked off is I can go around it like this. And you'll notice it's not even. It's not meant to be because fog isn't even. If you've ever seen fog roll in over a mountain or something like that, it'll creep and it'll go into the canyons first And then it kind of rolls over everything. So
Yeah.
let me take one more look at this. Okay, I want to look. Don't want to get my little lady. But if you go over something and it's not right, it's not what you want, you just take a little bit of your solvent and lift what you don't like. So here we have this, much softer, much moodier. And put the lid back on that baby, put it aside. And I will wash my brush in a bit. And now I love disposable knives, scalpels, for dealing with small cuts of tape and stuff like that there. All right, so we are back to the original color of my guardhouse, and all we need to do is detail. And I will try very hard to keep my wrist out of the paint. If you're taking bets, it's probably a losing thing, but never mind. Okay. Now we are going to go in. Where are my best brushes? My little brushes over here. Okay, we're going to go in and we are going to try to make some simple lines for describing our guardhouse.
Are you able to pull the iPad back down so we can see the reference image while you're painting?
Yes, good idea. I probably need that, huh? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and I'm going to use my number 4 flat, and I'm going to go in and as simply as possible do all these windows. Now that one window is very tealy at the top, so I'm going to take my Payne's gray and I'm going to test it. Ooh, I like it. We're going to go in and we're just going to do our window. Got a little slap happy there. And clean this up right there. Then we're going to go, there's kind of a grayish quality to the next step. It's the underside of this sill.
Your head's in the way now.
Whoops, sorry about that, Chief. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go fairly quickly, and then I can, clean up details later. I got this. Too much coffee, my hand is shaking. And then we have this balcony that goes all the way across. It's a little cattywampus, but ordinarily I'd rest my hand up here, but that's not happening because of the oil paint. So I can correct that from the top in a sec. All right, there's some interesting side door over here that I'm going to put in. My head? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's hard.
My head? Not so much.
Well, it's hard to keep it not in front of the camera.
Used to be hard. I've beaten it up too much.
Yeah, when you're trying to get in and get those close details, it's hard not to be right there.
It's true. It's true. So, all right. So, but your materials make your life so much easier when you're not struggling with a limited selection of brushes. So what I got when I was at Pace was an entire set of the short evergreens, and they're just fabulous. Okay, I made the tower taller than it is in the photograph because I just love it. So this is going to seem a little bit different at this point. Oh, the sponge is over here because I used the dish. Okay, and you know, I like to say we're not photocopy machines. We are artists who interpret shapes. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. There's going to be a gap here that isn't on the actually on this photograph, but I like it taller. I wanted it more important. So now go like this, and this, and this. See, told you I talked to myself.
That's good though. We get to see your process.
My mother once said, "It's okay to talk to yourself. It's not okay to answer yourself."
I still answer myself.
All right, so this is going to be a bit of a challenge. I really need a mole, which I don't happen to have with me. And I'm going to do the flag pull. So I'm just going to do a little indication of flags right here. And there is the California flag is there, but I don't want it quite so white. So I'm trying to create kind of a muted neutral color for it here. So you can see it's a flag, but it doesn't have to be specific. Should be brighter than that, though.
We've got about 5 more minutes.
Okie dokie, hokey pokey. We're kind of there. I'm going to fix that lid when the it's not anchored. I got to plant that puppy on that rock. So we're going to get that Payne's gray, and we're going to put it down. There. Because it is too bright. Okay. Well, I think for what we've got to work with, just a few more fun little details down here, and we're done. I'm going to, when this dries, I'm going to cast some shadows. As you can see, under the balcony and under the lid there, definite shadows. But I want to let this dry so that I'm not hitting it with anything too harsh. It looks like it's outlined right now, and that is not what I want. Okay, better. Soften that edge. Okay. I think for our purposes, we are close to done. A little more darkness behind her. Then helps make her stand out a bit. And then over here. We'll shape, a little more shaping on these. On this post and rail fence back here. pretty happy with that.
Yeah, it turned out nice. Like I said, I love all of the colors.
Thank you. It was fun. If I'm going to do some more work on the beach, I could get it in now a bit, I think. I just don't want to overdo it for the sake of, finishing with us. I love the boiling water down there. So pretty. And it's fun to go in and use like a pale ochre and lavender and all the other colors that you actually do see in water. All right.
Dunskies. Are you calling it good? That's it?
I am. Yeah, afterwards, I think I'll do a little more detail on the rocks, but the side of my hand is covered with paint as it is.
Well, thank you for doing this. This was great.
Thank you.
It was so nice to see. So I haven't played with acrylic gouache much, so it was nice to see how you kind of approach that. And I liked watching you switch brushes, like keeping two brushes in your hands and just going back and forth. I like that.
Thank you. It's actually, for me, it's just faster than switching. And
yeah,
I want to grab it when it's wet. So
yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. That was such a fun demo. And we got to see her little surprise glazing there with the oil paint at the end, which was super nice. A fun little twist for us. So thank you so much for that, Leslie.
You're welcome.
And you will always find Leslie hanging around somewhere. She's always with us. She'll be in Dreamliners. She'll be at all of our events. She's everywhere. Always look for the red hat. That's how you can find Leslie.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Don't forget, we've got Digital Painting Live coming up. It's going to be on the 14th. I'm really excited about it. We had Tiffany on yesterday. She did a little demo for us. And then we have Jennifer Wang coming on Art School Live next week to do another little demo for us. And I'm really excited. The way that Jennifer approaches painting is a lot different. She uses Procreate, and a lot of her digital paintings look like her gouache paintings. They're very, very cool. Very 𝗟𝗲𝗀 is the word I would give it. So check her out next week. Don't forget to check out Digital Painting Live. And for those of you, we've had some comments about people, why are we doing things on AI? This isn't AI. This is a Digital Painting Live is about using digital tools like Photoshop, Procreate, Infinite Painter to kind of help you improve your painting, your traditional painting. It's not a replacement for it. Most of these artists use all of these tools in everyday life. Tiffany does color studies in plein air with it. If you're in a situation where you can't get your paints, or like if you're on a plane and you want to paint and you don't have your paints with you, you can definitely pull out your tablet and just start, doodling, learning how to do color studies, value studies. You can use them to reframe your compositions. If you've got like 3 different photos and you like something from each one, you can use those tools to kind of combine those paintings into a really nice composition that you can use for a painting. So lots of tools that you can use that we want to share with you guys, and I'm really excited for it, and I hope I get to see all of you there. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great